We're excited here. Broadway Arts Camp is coming up August 7th through the 13th in Los Angeles, California at the Performing Arts Center up in Van Nuys. And we will be doing musical theater, vocal performance, all different kinds of dance technique, Broadway repertoire, and film and TV. Auditioning for camera, which is what I will be talking about today. Okay, awesome. It's noon, so I feel like I can start. Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. So I am a former Broadway gypsy dancer. I did Wicked, Sweet Charity, Fosse, and I was in the ensemble. I've understudied, I've dance captained, and I made a transition from dancing in New York to doing film and TV in California, in Los Angeles. And there's a few things that are different about film and TV auditions, and then there are some things that are very much the same about film and TV auditions as they are with musical theater auditions. So we will talk about those things right now. So the first thing is that's very similar that you can use on both things. When you get an audition, you get all those nerves, you get excited, right? The first thing you do is you look and you know the genre, you know the tone. You go, what is this? Is this a drama? What period does this take place in? Research the writer, look at the director. You want to do your research. You do that no matter what. It gives you a clue into a little bit about not only what the feel and the style is, especially if it's a filmmaker, you kind of know what other films that they've done. You can look at the writer and see what kind of things that they've written, and it just helps you get an overall scope of the project, and you should know the people involved. You should always do your research. You got to know the tone. You got to know, is this going to be is this a period drama? Am I doing auditioning for Three Sisters, or am I auditioning for the play Sylvia? Obviously, those are two very different things. Same thing with film and TV. Is it a 1-hour procedural drama and you're auditioning for a guest star, or are you auditioning for a half-hour sitcom? So that's the first thing you do. Second thing you do is when I get an audition, especially, I'll speak now into film and TV, and then we'll go back and talk about how the skills translate. But for film and TV, the first thing I do before I start trying to memorize lines, before I start trying to figure out how am I going to say this, or what do they want, all things that kind of get you in your head, you want to just read the script and understand what's happening in the script. You have to know the circumstances of the scene. You've got to know what's happening in the scope of the whole story. You want to look and see, who am I talking to? You want to look at the relationships. Or am I playing a sister? Am I talking to my brother? You want to just get familiar, first of all, with what's happening. It's all storytelling, you guys. The whole thing comes down to storytelling. So, read for comprehension. What's happening? What are the given circumstances? Okay? Then, once you start to wrap your head around the circumstances, then you start to look in that specific scene. Here's a little trick with film and TV. A lot of times when you're auditioning for guest stars, they don't give you the whole script. But they might take a piece of it, and you might be able to see what the page number is from where it is in the script. If you see it's like page 13 versus page, let's say if it's an hour-long show, which are normally around 60 pages, or page 45, you're kind of going to know where in the journey you are in the story, which of course is important. Why? Because in every story, there's a beginning, middle, and end. So if you are auditioning for a guest star at the beginning of the story, it's going to be a little bit of a different circumstance. Maybe the character is there to set up a crime that's about to happen, or you're there to, if you're playing the best friend to the lead character, you're there to offer the series regular or the lead some insight into themselves. So you've got to know where you're at in the story, okay? So you're reading for comprehension, you're looking at where you're at in the story, you're looking at the circumstances, and then when you have the individual scene, in every scene, there's a beginning, middle, and end. So what I like to do is I like to read it and I go, all right, the character that I'm going in for, is there a change that happens in the scene? Usually there's something, an arc even within the scene. Especially for film and TV, it doesn't have to always be something like completely dramatic. Like you start off, one way in the scene and you end up in a completely different place. But there's some sort of place where there's a change that happens. Look for those things. Look for, has the character gone from maybe not knowing if they want to pursue a person to suddenly they decide that they do want to pursue a person. And I'm saying it could be, something you have feelings for, or maybe you're trying to decide if you want to talk to your sister about something that's been bothering you. It can be anything really small, but some sort of subtle change that happens, okay? And then, last thing I want to say about that. Stories are written. One of my mentors, Howard Fine, always says this. Stories are written about people, characters. You're playing people, characters or people who are in crisis, at crossroads, and in moments of decision. So there's always something going on. In an audition, usually the casting director or the director or the producer or the writer are going to want to see how you're handling with the changes that are happening in the character. They're going to want to see you play those arcs, right? So for film and TV, a lot of times, especially if you're going in for a series regular, you might get a scene at the beginning of the script, of the journey of the character, and then in the middle, and then at the end. If you're going in for a guest star, you may just get one scene and you're there to serve the journey of the series regular, of the lead part. Okay, so you've got reading comprehension, understanding what's happening. You're getting the relationships together. Who am I talking to? Who am I to this person? You're looking for changes in the scene. Then you start to look at the words that the character are using. What kind of a personality does the character have? What do they want in the scene? You start looking for, I don't like to use the terms objectives and things like that, because I'm not teaching acting. It's just for auditioning very specifically. You have to do it fast. So you want to look for the clues, like, is this character a judgmental person? Is this character a go-getter? Is this character somebody who is timid? They don't want to talk about something. You look at things that they're not saying. Okay, so you just start to find clues in the language as to what kind of personality the character has. What do they want? What are they not saying? Things like that. As you start to discover those things, you guys, this whole thing is a discovery process. When you get an audition, it's never about trying to figure out how to say something. I just saw a comment, distracting background noises. I know, I'm so sorry. I'm at a Starbucks because I wasn't going to make it home in time from an audition and errands that I had, so I apologize for the noises. Next time we won't have that. Anyway, maybe we can do this again. So sorry about that. That was my mom. So the next piece that I look at is I imagine and I think about how Alexis, how I felt in circumstances like this. So maybe, usually in television, you're playing things that aren't too far-fetched, right? So you can imagine what it would be like in those circumstances. You use your imagination. You use things in your life. Maybe if you see that the character is kind of a judgmental character, you think about a time in your life when you felt like you've judged somebody. So you start to bring yourself to the role and imagine yourself in these circumstances. It's the first clue into how you can actually play the scene. Now, memorizing. A lot of people have problems with memorizing. I think the best tool for that is repetition. Doing it over and over and over again. Reading it over and over and over again. A lot of times what I do is I will literally look at a scene, I will be reading the words, and I will cover up the lines and test myself. It literally is just about repetition. And as you're memorizing, because you've already done the other work, you just want to get the ideas behind the lines. You're not trying to memorize how to say the line a certain way. It leaves you more room to feel spontaneous in the moment, because in life, we're not planning how we want to say things, and a lot of times when we do plan how to say things, it doesn't come out that way, right? So to memorize, repetition, repetition, repetition. The other thing with film and TV auditions is you got to run it with somebody. You have to run it with somebody. It doesn't have to be an acting teacher. It can be your mom, your friend, your husband, your neighbor. You just got to get it off the page. You want to be as memorized as you can so you can be listening. The key in any audition is just to listen and respond. So in a film and TV audition, the last thing I want to say is you really want to connect with your reader. A lot of times the reader is going to be a casting director. You're not always going to have the luxury of working with the actual actor in the scene. In fact, you'll never get that. So you just want to connect to the reader. You want to be able to give them eye contact and talk to them as like a human, because that's what you're doing. You are in the moment creating a scene between two people, and you want it to be as spontaneous as possible. And so in order to have that spontaneity, you got to do all the work leading up to it. Understand the relationships, understand the given circumstances, find the change in the scene, look for the clues in the dialogue about who this person is, what their personality is like. Bring yourself to that. Use your imagination. Remember times when you felt like that, and then start to memorize. So the last piece is the memorizing. So it's been about 11 minutes. We're trying to keep these short. I apologize for the distracting noises. We will do these again. We will just keep doing them. The last thing is, if you're more of a theater person and you're translating and you're starting to get into film and TV, you already know a lot. You already know how to look for clues in the scene. You already know how to look for the moments when the characters are at crisis and at crossroads, at moments of decision. So you already know more than you think. You just have to remember in film and TV versus theater that you have a camera that's doing a lot of the work for you. So you don't have to, if you have a thought, if the character is thinking, do I want to say this or should I do this? You can just have the thought instead of having to show that. You don't have to indicate anything. It's always coming from a place of truth. So I'm telling you, it's really not as different as it's really not much as different as you think it might be. I think in film and TV, the acting can be a little bit more subtle, but you're still approaching the audition from the same way. You're still looking at relationships, you're still looking at the given circumstances, you're still looking at who the type of person this is, and you're still bringing yourself to those roles. So I hope this helped you guys. And this will be live on our page and on our YouTube page. Hello, YouTube fans. I'm wearing my Mixology t-shirt. Hey! And if you have any questions, feel free to email us, info@BroadwayArtsCamp.com. You can look at us on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube, Broadway Arts Camp. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Bye!